The girl was clearly pregnant with 3 snake eggs, yet her belly was terribly skinny, simply because she was the only female in the tribe who couldn't get enough to eat. Others had husbands who went hunting every day, but she, being thin and ugly, had no male willing to take her. Although she could manage going hungry for 3 days and 9 meals, the 3 snake cubs in her belly couldn't. Just as they were about to die from malnutrition, the 9th-tier Dark King snake in a certain cave suddenly opened his eyes. He actually sensed his own bloodline, and it was 3 cubs, all on the verge of starving to death. The next second, he instantly transformed into his original form and rushed out of the cave. He had thought he would be a rogue beast for life, but now it seemed he had to fulfill his responsibility as a mate. It turned out that just a month ago, when Liluo had just transmigrated to the beast world, she was forcefully pressed down by a snake beastman and lost her innocence. She cried and struggled, but it was all in vain. Later, she took advantage of the snake beastman's absence and secretly ran away, following the route in her memory. She took a shortcut home, but when she got home, she was stunned. There was no home, just a dilapidated cave. Inside the cave, there was nothing but a straw nest. Tears streamed down her face uncontrollably. She was crying for the original owner. The original owner was too miserable. Because she was too weak, she couldn't find a beast partner in the tribe, so no males went hunting for her. Every day she worried about food. Liluo once again came to the stream behind the mountain. These days, she relied on catching fish to fill her stomach. She didn't know what was going on, but her appetite had been particularly large these past 2 days. Before, 1 fish could last a day, but now 2 fish weren't enough. These days, she kept looking for food, and the fish in the stream were almost eaten up by her. Therefore, she decided to go deeper into the forest to see. Not long after walking, she actually encountered a large chestnut tree. She picked a large basket full, and in that short amount of time, she was already hungry. Liluo walked back, rubbing her rumbling stomach. She was truly shocked. Before returning to the tribe, she had quietly explored the tribe, and during that exploration, no other beastmen noticed her existence. Then she discovered that almost all the females in the tribe had several partners. One female even had 20 mates. 20 males raising 1 female, making her plump and healthy. In the beast world, as long as one had strong mates, there was no need to worry about food, drink, or clothing. Females just needed to stay at home and take good care of their young. In fact, it was said to be taking care of the young, but most of the work of taking care of the young fell on the males. They were responsible for eating, drinking, playing, and being happy. Here, the mates were the most leisurely, and children couldn't surpass their mates. The more Liluo thought about it, the more melancholic she became. She accepted the fact of transmigration, and she also accepted the fact of living in the beast world, but now she could barely even feed herself. As she thought about it, she couldn't help but cry again. This was too difficult. I want to eat meat too, seeing them eat it. Meanwhile, on the other side, the snake beastman still hunted as usual. After eating his fill, he returned to the cave to sleep. He had just closed his eyes, intending to fall asleep, but the next second, he opened his eyes in shock. He had actually sensed the power of his bloodline. It was his bloodline. He suddenly remembered the absurd mating a month ago, which happened in this very cave. That day, after hunting and eating his fill, he returned to the cave to prepare for sleep. Because there was a female in the cave, he rested in human form. As he slept, his body inexplicably became hot. The sleeping female beside him inexplicably attracted him, and finally, he couldn't control himself. Xuanqi never expected that, with just that one time, she would actually conceive his bloodline. Xuanqi closed his eyes and began to carefully sense the power of his bloodline. This time, it shocked him again. He had just sensed 3 bloodline powers. That weak female had actually conceived 3 of his snake eggs. He had never heard of a female conceiving 3 eggs. It was simply a miracle. He quickly transformed into his true form and rushed out of the cave to hunt. He wanted to hunt the tenderest beast meat. He was afraid that his cubs would die in the womb. The King Cobra clan was powerful, and pregnant mothers needed a large amount of nutrition to supply the fetuses. If there was not enough energy, they would die along with the mother. Xuanqi's mood became heavy when he thought of that extremely thin physique. Such a weak body, yet she conceived his bloodline in 1 go, and 3 at that. Today was the 30th day of the pregnancy. Is she eating enough? Thinking about it, Xuanqi decided to hunt 2 more beasts. On the other side, Liluo picked up a smaller wicker hat. and planned to go to a watery place outside to see if there were any shrimp or anything. It was probably because Liluo's home was really too remote. The further she walked, the more she could hear cheers and screams, as if celebrating something. When she walked to the front, she saw that the large open space in the middle of the tribe was filled with beastmen. The males had excited expressions, and the females had adoring expressions. Liluo followed their worshipping gaze. In the center of the open space stood the chief and a handsome male. This male was about 1.9 meters tall, with a muscular body, 8-pack abs, and neat golden short hair. Liluo looked around, patted a kind-looking female opposite her. "Hello, what's going on? What good thing happened?" Coral was startled by the sudden pat on the shoulder. She turned to look at the person and was startled again. How can there be such a thin female in the tribe? She looks like a skeleton wrapped in skin. She looked at Liluo with some pity. "Who are you? I've never seen you before." Liluo was embarrassed by his gaze. She scratched her head and explained softly, "My name is Liluo and I live at the very end of the tribe. I usually don't come out. My body isn't good and I can't walk too far. It's normal that you haven't seen me. I'm sorry to bother you." After these actions, Coral's heart ached. She finally remembered who the thin female in front of her was. A female who was picked up by the tribe and arranged to live in the outermost cave. She was the only one above adulthood, and her appearance, when males proposed to her, meant she couldn't join the tribe. But she didn't expect this female to be doing so poorly, thin as a cub. Coral explained with red eyes, "Luo Li has just given birth to a 7th-tier warrior. Among the surrounding tribes, only our Lion King tribe has a 7th-tier warrior right now, so the chief ordered everyone to celebrate." Liluo's mind reeled when she heard this. Most male beastmen had power levels at birth, usually 1st or 2nd tier. Those who reached 3rd tier were considered favored by heaven. However, through hunting or absorbing energy, they could also advance in rank, but each tier was like a chasm. The higher the tier, the more terrifying the power. "He's already 7th tier at such a young age, truly amazing," she casually praised him, then immediately asked about important matters. "What should I call you? I want to ask where you usually bathe." As soon as she said this, Coral felt even more sorry for her. She didn't even know where to bathe. "My name is Coral. Are you going to the water's edge?" "I'm going to." "Let's go together." Liluo's eyes lit up. It was great to have someone lead the way. But the next second, Coral suddenly shouted, "Quasar, come quickly! We're going to the water's edge!" Then Liluo saw a tall male walk over and stand beside Coral, instantly transforming into a giant golden lion. Liluo was stunned. Coral stroked the lion's brown fur. "Quasar, she's so thin. Can you give her a ride?" In the beast world, male beastmen with partners were not allowed to let other females ride on their bodies. That was equivalent to betrayal. But now it was the partner's request, and this female was truly pitiful, so Quasar readily agreed. So Liluo hitched a ride. Along the way, Coral always looked at her with pained eyes, which made her a little awkward, but her heart felt warm. Coral gently advised, "I've hardly ever seen you go out. You should come out more often. What if someone fancies you?" Liluo was silent for a long time before softly replying, "I'm too thin. No male will like me. Maybe when I have my coming-of-age ceremony." Coral's face clouded over for a moment, then she put on a smile. "Then let's get you fat first. I have 5 mates, and they are very strong. I'll ask them to hunt an extra portion and send it to your home." Hearing this, Liluo suddenly looked up, and the tears she had suppressed for too long instantly fell. She had lived alone in the beast world for 20 to 30 days, with no friends, no partners, worrying about food every day. Now, a newly met beastman was sharing his prey with her. "Don't cry. I won't send it if you don't want it." Coral panicked. "What?" Liluo's tears stopped abruptly. "Sister, what did you say?" Coral saw that she stopped crying immediately and quickly said, don't cry, I won't send it." Liluo's mouth twitched twice. However, she originally didn't intend to accept it. What kind of person would let someone else's husband support her? How awkward. Soon, they reached their destination. Liluo looked at the massive waterfall not far away and twitched her mouth as she looked at Coral. "You call this the water's edge? This is the water's edge. The surrounding tribes all get their water here. Come, Let's go wash quickly. Coral told her partner to pick her up later, then pulled Li Luo and walked towards a place where the water was calmer. Li Luo sighed in her heart as she washed. I won't be catching any shrimp today. She didn't expect this water's edge to actually be a large waterfall. Her current location was not far from the bottom of the waterfall. There were no shrimp here. After washing, Coral looked at her emaciated figure, where her bones were clearly visible, and her heart ached again. Li Luo, come to my house for dinner tonight. My mate hunted a huge ox beast. My mates and I can't finish it all. Come and eat with us. Li Luo's eyes immediately lit up when she heard this. That sounds great. I won't have to go hungry tonight. Li Luo smiled and said, Okay, thank you, Coral. I'll bring you something good to eat another day. As soon as she finished speaking, Coral immediately turned around, her body trembling slightly. At this moment, Coral's eyes couldn't help but well up with tears. Li Luo had just said she would bring her something good to eat, and she herself was so thin, yet she still said she would bring her good things. She was truly kind. At this moment, Li Luo still didn't know that she hadn't done anything, yet she had won a loving heart. While washing, Li Luo kept an eye out for good stone slabs. She wanted to make a stone slab griddle. Unfortunately, until evening, when Coral's partner came to pick them up to go back, Li Luo didn't see any suitable stone slabs. Perhaps this was the usual time for hunting to return, plus everyone was still celebrating earlier, so there were still many beastmen in the center of the tribe. When they walked into the tribe, Li Luo felt many gazes. A black-skinned, plump female looked at Li Luo with a disgusted expression. Coral, what's going on with you? You actually let another female sit on your mate's back. Coral's face turned cold, and she replied impolitely, None of your business. I don't mind, and my partner doesn't mind. Why should your outsider care? How ridiculous. But the black-skinned female was still relentless. Who is this? I've never seen anyone so thin. She's ugly. Where's your partner? Oh, I remember now. Isn't this that beast who lives at the very end of the tribe? The one no beast wanted at the coming-of-age ceremony? Kina said to Coral with disdain. Coral, you're one of the most beautiful females in the tribe. How could you hang out with such an ugly thing? At this moment, Coral was furious. She patted Quasar, signaling him to put her down. Li Luo also jumped off Quasar. However, what she didn't expect was that as soon as Coral got down, she walked straight over, slapped that female directly, then kicked her to the ground, and directly rode on top of her to hit her. The incident happened suddenly. Trina's partners immediately stepped forward to push Coral away. Quasar flashed forward to block them, his eyes full of fierce light. In the beast world, females could fight, but males were not allowed to help or lay hands on females. If the other party showed any intention to attack, the males on their side would immediately step forward and fight them. What does female-on-female fighting have to do with you males? Kina was about to shout, Mushan, what are you good for? Are you just gonna watch me get beaten? Her mate, named Mushan, was currently being held down by Quasar, unable to move. Hearing the commotion, Kina's other mate rushed over, about to step forward when he heard Quasar coldly say, Have you forgotten the rules? If you, Lingxi, dare to touch Coral, be careful, Yingfeng will break your legs. Yingfeng was Coral's first mate, and a 6th-tier beastman. Lingxi looked distressed at Quina, who was being pinned down and beaten on the ground. He half-turned his head to the side, clenching his fists tightly. Rules must be followed, and he couldn't beat Yingfeng anyway. Coral sat on China, one hand holding down China's 2 hands, while the other hand swung slaps left and right. Let your mouth be cheap. It's one thing if you're usually jealous of me, I won't bother with you. But now you're pushing your luck, aren't you? Talking about me is one thing, but you dare to talk about Li Luo? See if I don't beat you to death today. You're really pissing me off. Coral beat and cursed at the same time. At this moment, Coral was like a mother beast protecting her cub, protecting Li Luo. If you're not convinced, let your mates fight my mates. Let's see how arrogant you can be. Coral was full of confidence. Her first mate was a 6th-tier beastman, and her other 4 mates were all 5-tier. She could be said to be very powerful in the tribe. Yet, there was someone who didn't know their place and insisted on provoking her. Li Luo was completely bewildered by everything happening before her. Coral seemed gentle and soft, but she didn't expect her to be so fierce. She quickly went to break up the fight. More and more beastmen gathered to watch. Li Luo hurriedly stepped forward and grabbed Coral's arm. Coral, stop fighting! Oh my, get up! Get up! Startled by the pull, Coral stopped her hands, afraid of hurting Li Luo. She stood up, coldly looked at the onlookers, and declared fiercely, "From today onwards, Li Luo is under my protection. If I find out anyone dares to bully her, male or female, I will not let them go." At this moment, Li Luo was almost in tears. This is too cool. She just met her, and she's already doing this for her. Hearing her own mate's words, Quasar looked at Li Luo beside him and frowned. As soon as Coral stood up, China's mates immediately surrounded her, holding her with heartache. Her entire face was swollen from the beating. But unexpectedly, Quina actually backhanded her two mates, one slap each. "Useless! You can't even protect your own mate!" The two mates were shocked, their eyes full of hurt. They never expected her to treat them this way. However, they had no choice. There were many males and few females, so if they wanted offspring, they could only endure it. After this incident, Li Luo felt too awkward to go beg for food again. No matter how enthusiastically Coral invited her, she still refused. Today, she was already very happy. After returning home, Li Luo first went to the stream behind the mountain to check the situation. Fortunately, there was a fish in the wicker basket. Tonight's dinner was settled. She quickly brought the fish home to clean it, then began to drill wood to make fire and prepare to roast the fish. And at this moment, outside the Lion King tribe, the males all felt a powerful pressure from a high-tier beastman. The chief, who was eating, and his son Han Chuan, who was the 7th-tier warrior, immediately stopped what they were doing and were about to go out when they encountered a beastman who came to deliver a message. "Chief, there's a beastman at the tribe entrance who says he wants to see Ming." Lingshan and Hunchuan quickly walked towards the tribe entrance. At this moment, Lingshan's heart was extremely nervous. Judging by the intensity of this aura, the other party's tier was even higher than his son's. But why would such a strong person come to their tribe? Li Luo was completely unaware of the tense atmosphere at the entrance. She was carefully roasting her fish. She had just thought that she could throw chestnuts into the fire to roast them and eat them. This made her very happy. The fish was roasted. Li Luo squatted on the ground, carefully eating the roasted fish. But as she ate, a sudden commotion came from afar, approaching. Xuanqi never expected to see her in such a pitiful state when he finally found her. Skeletally thin, she squatted on the ground, holding a roasted porcupine in her hand, eating it bit by bit. Who would eat a porcupine? Only those beastmen who can't hunt proper prey would eat that stuff. It's the lowest quality food choice in the beast world. In an instant, his heart ached a little. Lingshan behind him paused. Someone had clearly sent meat to her, so why was this female still so thin, even resorting to eating porcupine to fill her stomach? Xuanqi was truly angry. In an instant, he released a powerful pressure. "Is this how your tribe treats females? She's even a pregnant female, and you let her eat porcupine?" This pressure made Lingshan and the accompanying Hanchuan unable to move, even bending over. Chief Lingshan was greatly alarmed. This beastman is actually a 9th-tier beastman. A 7th-tier beastman is already a top-notch existence on this continent. A 9th-tier beastman is unimaginable. Hanchuan was also stunned when he first saw Li Luo. How could there be such a thin female in the tribe, so miserable that she had to eat porcupine to survive? And she was even pregnant. He thought he needed to thoroughly inspect the tribe. Because he had been busy with advancing recently, he hadn't properly inspected the tribe, leading to a female suffering such a miserable fate. Li Luo was eating her fish just fine when she was interrupted. She looked up at the newcomer, and in an instant, she was so startled that she almost dropped her fish. Fortunately, she steadied herself. Looking at her fumbling efforts to protect the skinny porcupine, and then seeing the many fur and bones on the ground, he realized she even picked up those to eat. As a beastman who had always lived a solitary nomadic life, he had never thought about settling down and having children. So when he didn't see her after returning from hunting that day, he didn't think much of it. But now, seeing her in this state, he actually regretted why he hadn't gone looking for her then. She was his female. After seeing him, Li Luo stammered, How did you get here? Why are you here? It feels like you're looking for trouble." Hearing her words, Xuanqi withdrew his pressure, walked quickly over, pulled her into an embrace, holding Li Luo tightly. The man's hand rested on her belly, then slowly infused energy. Li Luo immediately felt so comfortable, and her hunger lessened considerably. Xuanqi took out a huge piece of beast meat from his space, threw it to the chief, and said, "Arrange a large cave for me. Get everything ready. and then have Wu Yi from your tribe come over immediately." Lingshan looked at the meat in shock. That was only found in the Misty Forest, and a piece that big could be sold for at least 3 million spirit stones. As expected of a 9-tier beast man, he turned to instruct his son Han Chuan. "You quickly arrange a cave, and then immediately invite Wu Yi over." Han Chuan responded and immediately transformed into his beast form, running towards the back. Immediately after, Lingshan said to Xuanqi, "You keep this meat to eat. It's all my fault for not managing the tribe well, which made a female live such a difficult life. Your name is Li Luo, right? I apologize to you here. I'm sorry for my poor management. From today onwards, you will take good care of your body in the tribe. I will have my son Han Chuan send you things." Xuanqi chuckled when he heard this. "Who cares about your things? With me around, what kind of prey can I catch? You just need to arrange what I told you." Lingshan smiled ingratiatingly. Yes, I will definitely arrange it for you." Li Luo was bewildered the entire time. Why was this beastman here, and why was the chief bowing and scraping to him? When she was eating fish just now, she heard them say something about a pregnant female. Li Luo suddenly looked at her own belly. "What? Pregnant?" she asked with a tremble. "What did you just say? I'm pregnant?" Feeling her trembling body, the man held her a little tighter. "You're pregnant with 3. Li Luo's eyes rolled back, and she directly fainted. Before she fainted, there was only one thought in her mind. 3. When Li Luo woke up, she was in the man's arms, and an old female was feeling her pulse. Wu Yi was somewhat shocked. Such a thin female actually has such powerful reproductive ability. I know how difficult it is for the Dark King Snake clan to reproduce. It's usually 1 per litter. But now this little female actually has 3 in 1 litter, and each one is very strong. Wu Yi looked at Li Luo with a kind smile. "Your babies are very healthy. I will give you a laxative. If you drink it for 4 consecutive days, it will be very good for both you and the cubs." Li Luo felt a little depressed. No wonder I'm always so hungry and don't gain weight no matter how much I eat. It turns out it's all being eaten by those 3 lumps of meat in my belly. The next second, Granny Wu Yi smiled again and asked, "Do you want to be imprinted? I can imprint you." Li Luo was bewildered again. What is imprinting? In the end, Li Luo was imprinted in a daze. After imprinting, a snake mark appeared on her chest, and a rabbit mark appeared on the beastman's chest. Li Luo, in a daze, became a beastman with a partner, and her husband's strength was amazing. However, when she learned that her husband was a snake beastman, and that she was pregnant with 3 little snakes, she rolled her eyes and fainted again. When she woke up again, she was already under an unfamiliar animal. She was lying in a soft straw nest. Her tools were also neatly placed on the side. In the cave, there was also a large stone table with a pile of fruit on it. In the past, she would be especially hungry when she woke up, even to the point of her stomach hurting. But today, she wasn't. She felt so magical. Is it because the father of her children is here? The little cubs sensed their father's presence. Just then, a shout came from outside the cave. "Li Luo, are you awake?" Hearing this, Li Luo walked out of the cave and saw Coral and her mate waiting at the entrance. Seeing her come out, Coral happily stepped forward and linked arms with her. "Do you like living in this cave? I decorated it for you. When I heard Han Chuan say he wanted to decorate a cave for you, I volunteered to take over." Li Luo smiled at her. "Thank you. I live very well. I like it very much." Suddenly, Coral leaned over and slyly said to her, "All right, Li Luo, you found such an amazing mate. From now on, no one will dare to bully you." Li Luo wondered, "Amazing? How amazing?" She seemed to have no memory of this. Did she forget? Coral said seriously, "Let's just say, you can walk sideways in this forest, or even in this entire southern continent without exaggeration." "Holy crap, that's awesome," Li Luo habitually blurted out in national essence. Coral suddenly pulled her, and as they walked towards the adjacent cave, she said, "You must be hungry, right? Your mate told our family that he's going back to get some things and asked me to look after you. Your mate gave me a huge piece of beast meat. You can eat with me tonight, we'll eat it all up." Only then did Li Luo realize that Coral was her neighbor. That's great. When they arrived at Coral's house, 4 males were cooking. Seeing them enter, Quasar, the mate she had met that day, immediately said, "Dinner's ready." Coral excitedly pulled her to a seat. The other 5 mates sat on the side. As they ate, the scene became a little strange. The mates served Coral food, and Coral took care of Li Luo, which made her feel a little amused and helpless. Tonight, they ate roasted lean meat. It was still tasteless, even quite fishy, just like before. But Li Luo still forced herself to eat it. Li Luo looked at Coral's cooking tools. They were all only used for roasting meat. It seemed they didn't understand what cooking was. Li Luo asked, "Do you all only eat roasted food?" Coral nodded. The other mates' faces were full of curiosity, clearly very puzzled by Li Luo's question. "Because everyone ate that way. I'll teach you a new way to eat. But first, we need a stone pot. With a stone pot, we can boil things to eat and make soup, and drinking soup can warm the body." As soon as this was said, all the beastmen present had their eyes light up. "Warm the body? This is great!" Coral asked in confusion. "Li Luo, what is a stone pot?" Coral's question left Li Luo a bit unsure how to answer. Li Luo thought for a moment and said, "Your mates should be able to carve stone with their abilities, right?" "Of course they can! My first mate, Yingfeng, is a 6th-tier warrior. His ability is wind, which can be used to cut anything." Hearing this, Li Luo said, "That makes it easy then. Coral, let's go to the water's edge. I've already scoped out a few big stones that are perfect for making pots where we bathed last time." Before long, the mates first carried 2 large pebbles onto the shore. Then Li Luo began to direct Yingfeng to cut and make the stone pots. After they were made, they were also polished smooth. Soon 2 excellent quality stone pots were completed. Li Luo even made 2 sets of tableware. Spoons, plates, rice bowls, and soup bowls were all arranged. Seeing that it wasn't dark yet, Li Luo suggested strolling around nearby to see if there was anything good. And indeed, she actually discovered chili peppers and ginger. Li Luo's heart was incredibly excited. With ginger, she could eat meat without the fishy smell. She picked some chili peppers to take back and plant. Then, the group returned home with a bountiful harvest. Coral's mates divided the work. One immediately started a fire, another cleaned the stone pot, and another cut the meat, ginger, and chili peppers as she instructed. Li Luo watched the mate cleaning the pot, and with a slight movement of his finger, water appeared out of thin air to fill the stone pot. She thought, having this water ability is really good. In the future, I'll also find a mate with a water ability, so I won't have to worry about water. The meat was placed in cold water in the pot, and 2 slices of ginger were added. After the water boiled, foam appeared on the surface. Li Luo used a spoon to skim off the foam, and once it was clean, it was a pot of clear meat broth. At this point, Coral took out the salt. Li Luo saw that the salt was yellow, coarse salt, but it was better than nothing. She picked up a small pinch with her fingertips and put it into the soup, just to add some flavor. Li Luo served each beastman a bowl of meat broth. They all expressed how novel it was. Everyone took a sip of the soup, then their eyes widened in surprise. This meat actually had no fishy smell at all and was very fresh. Coral drank the meat broth while looking at him with admiration. "Li Luo, you're amazing! You know so much!" Next, Li Luo also taught them how to render oil. The oil was fried from the fattest parts of the beast meat. The aroma of this oil made all the beastmen drool. Finally, Li Luo used the freshly rendered oil to fry a piece of tender meat, seasoned with the only salt they had and chili peppers. The group of beastmen ate with great satisfaction. Coral ate until her belly was round. It was the first time she had tasted such delicious food. The meat had no fishy smell, was tender and fragrant, and they had discovered new foods. "I didn't expect these flavors to be so good. What kind of rough lives did we live before?" "Li Luo, you're truly amazing." Li Luo smiled and replied, "Eat more if you like it." Then she turned to Coral's mates and said, "Coral likes to eat so much, you guys really need to learn." Several males nodded repeatedly. After a busy day, Li Luo was also tired, so she went home to sleep. Pregnant people really do stick to the bed once they lie down. In a daze in the middle of the night, she always felt someone holding her in their arms, their hand gently stroking her belly. However, she was too sleepy and fell asleep again. Li Luo had a rare good night's sleep. She sat up in her nest and stretched, only to suddenly realize that she wasn't wearing yesterday's beast hide. The material was like silk, more comfortable and cooler than beast hide. Li Luo suddenly paused. Could it be that Beastman changed it for her? "He's my husband. It's normal. It's normal," Li Luo comforted herself. She tidied herself up and got out of bed, then walked outside. When Li Luo walked out, she saw that her husband was actually learning to cook with Yingfeng. It was at this moment that Liluo realized how incredibly handsome her husband truly was. She hadn't paid much attention when they first met. When she first transmigrated, she was still in shock and had no mind to appreciate handsome men. The second time they met was when the chief came with him. She was eating at the time, and suddenly seeing him startled her. She even thought he had come to seek revenge for her secretly running away. After all, there was an unwritten rule in the beast world that if a male found a female outside and the male was single, then the female was his partner. She had to admit, now that she looked closely, her husband was truly devastatingly handsome. That demon-like face, that comic book-like physique. Liluo's gaze inexplicably drifted to a certain spot. If she wasn't mistaken, there were two there. Liluo's face quietly flushed. Suddenly, something dripped onto her mouth. She was about to reach out and touch it, but in an instant, she was scooped up by the man. In the blink of an eye, Liluo appeared before the witch doctor. Only then did she see the blood on her hand. Oh no, how did I get a nosebleed just from looking at a handsome guy? Xuanqi held her, looking at the witch doctor with urgency and panic. Quickly, check her! Why is she suddenly bleeding? Liluo was so ashamed at this moment that she wanted to find a hole to crawl into. She tugged at his arm and whispered, I'm fine, I'm just a little excited. Xuanqi looked puzzled. Excited? Why excited? Is this lean meat that delicious? Then I'll go catch more later. At this moment, Liluo was truly full of black lines. This was the bad thing about beastmen. Sometimes it was hard to communicate with them. Liluo thought for a moment, then, blushing, motioned for him to lower his head. Then she leaned close to his ear and whispered, I just thought you were too handsome and got excited for a moment. It's fine, let's go back quickly. Xuanqi couldn't help but laugh and cry when he heard her words. It was the first time he had heard of a female bleeding from looking at a handsome male. At the same time, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl into a smile. Wu Yi looked at the affectionate interaction between the two and smiled kindly. Since you're already here, let me check again. Xuanqi held Liluo and stepped forward, then knelt before Wu Yi so that the person in his arms would be more comfortable. Liluo obediently extended her hand for Wu Yi to examine her pulse. Wu Yi said, your body wasn't getting enough to eat before, so you lost some. Later you became pregnant with cubs, and you yourself know how much the cubs absorb in your belly. You must ensure that you eat and drink your fill every day. The medicine I prescribed must be taken every day, not a single day can be missed. You are too thin now, because you're not getting enough energy. Liluo was still a bit confused. Granny, do you mean that the nutrients I'm eating now aren't enough, and everything I eat is being absorbed by the cubs, which is why I'm not gaining weight? Is that what you mean? Wu Yi withdrew her hand and looked at him kindly, saying, yes, you can understand it that way. Your mate is from the Dark King Snake clan. This type of beastman has extremely strong innate abilities. Even as cubs, they need to absorb a lot of energy. If they don't absorb enough, they will start absorbing the mother's energy. But don't worry too much. Your mate is very powerful, so you don't have to worry about food. But you absolutely must not dislike the cubs because of their unconscious absorption. When you have enough energy, and the cubs have absorbed enough, you will gain weight. At the same time, Xuanqi tightened his grip on her hand a few more times. At this moment, he was both nervous and scared. He had finally overlooked the fact that their mating was not natural. He had forced it. Although it was a rule in the beast world that if a male found a female outside and he was single, she was his mate, mating still required the female's consent. Feeling the man's hand slowly tighten around her, Liluo thought he was worried she would dislike the cubs. She placed her hand on his and said, you don't have to worry. I won't dislike the cubs. They are my cubs. I love them too much to dislike them. Hearing her words, Xuanqi's eyes reddened and his nose felt a little sore. He softly hummed in affirmation. They walked back. He held her, she leaning in his embrace. He always felt like he had missed something. After thinking for a long time, he finally realized he didn't even know his own husband's name. Liluo began to throw a small tantrum. You didn't even tell me your name. It's so baffling that I got pregnant and I don't even know the father of my cub's name. Tell me, is that reasonable? Xuanqi listened to her complaints, a smile playing on his lips. Then he became serious. My fault. I didn't do well. My name is Xuanqi. My beast form is a snake. This damn voice. What was his voice called in my past life? So damn good to listen to. He absolutely loves it. Xuanqi's eyes deepened, and he hugged the person in his arms a little tighter. His voice was filled with guilt. I'm sorry. Forcing you to mate was my fault. But I want to explain. I didn't do it on purpose back then. I found you in the forest. You only had one breath left at the time. Females are precious. I didn't know if you could survive, but I knew if I just left you in the forest like that, you definitely wouldn't survive. So I brought you back to my cave. The day I mated with you, I went hunting. That beast was a bit spiritual, and I fought with him for a long time. Later, I asked him and found out that this flower is called Yu Qinghua, quiet emotion flower. Its fragrance has an aphrodisiac effect. Beastmen usually pick one or two for mating and flirting. I smelled a lot of the fragrance at the time. Xuanqi's voice became softer and softer as he spoke. So, I'm sorry, Li Luo. Please don't dislike the cubs, okay? I'm very strong. I can support you and the cubs, he said, a little choked up, burying his head in Li Luo's shoulder. Li Luo felt the wetness on her shoulder. She reached out and stroked his head. I know. Maybe I should even thank you. You saved my life. I just said, I won't dislike the cubs. They are my children. What mother would dislike her children? Look at how we met. Perhaps it was the beast God's blessing that I was about to starve to death in the wild. You met me and brought me back to your cave and even gave me something to eat. And then I got pregnant with your cubs. Perhaps this is fate. Pfeft. This damn past life rhetoric. Ha 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 ha. Li Luo almost laughed herself as she spoke. Hearing her words, Xuanqi raised his head, his eyes red and filled with indescribable emotions. At this moment, he secretly vowed in his heart that he would take good care of her for the rest of his life, cherish her, and absolutely never let her suffer any grievances. She deserved it. On the way back, Li Luo and the others received a wave of attention. The new female actually has a legendary high-tier mate, and she's even pregnant with triplets. This also proves her extremely strong fertility. The mates in the tribe discussed, is that the one from the beast hall? We really underestimated her. Isn't that right? No one chose her at the coming-of-age ceremony. Is this a 9th-tier beastman? So handsome and good-looking. And strong, too. What good luck did this female have? Amidst the hushed discussions, Li Luo returned to the cave entrance, only to find that Coral's cave entrance was full of beastmen. She was puzzled. The next second, Coral's voice came through. This is called a stone pot, this is a stone bowl, and this is a plate used for holding food. It turned out that after Li Luo left, Coral started eating by herself. Unexpectedly, after a while, the cave entrance was filled with beastmen. Coral was confused and asked them why they had all come and if they needed anything from her. They all said they smelled a very fragrant smell and followed the scent. Then they saw the stone pot boiling food. They pointed at the stone pot, expressing great curiosity, and everyone busily asked for all information about the stone pot. Coral explained it to them. At the same time, some of the beastmen saw Li Luo returning. Coral! Someone loudly shouted. Li Luo is back! In the Lion King tribe now, the name Li Luo was known to every beast. Hearing that Li Luo was back, Coral immediately ran out. The other beastmen automatically made a path. Coral, holding Li Luo's hand, walked into the cave, saying, Li Luo, come quickly! They're all here to learn! They also want stone pots and bowls! Li Luo looked at the crowd almost filling the cave, a little surprised. You all want to try it? The beasts all nodded. Yes, we all want to. We also want to learn how to cook. Coral said excitedly, Li Luo, the cooking method you taught me makes the meat so incredibly delicious. Do you know why they came? They came because they smelled the aroma. I never thought that one day I'd be looked at by so many people with worship in their eyes. She was overjoyed. Li Luo suddenly remembered that these beastmen didn't know how to use tools at all. Females didn't eat raw meat, so males would just roast it over a fire and give it to them to eat. For males, it was even simpler. They would just eat raw prey. Since they were already here, Li Luo said, later, you all gather your mates. We'll go to the water's edge in a bit. I'll eat first now. Once I'm full, we'll set off. Everyone agreed in unison, then went home to call their mates. Coral sat by the side, looking at her with worship and excitement. Li Luo felt very uncomfortable being stared at like that. Why are you looking at me like that? Do I have flowers on my face? I'm just happy, Coral said excitedly. They just came to find me, saying they also wanted a stone pot and wanted to trade prey for the method of making it. I told them that this stone pot was made by you, and these tools too. They were all stunned. Just thinking about their faces back then makes me so happy. She was truly happy. Before, those females in the tribe looked down on the thin Li Luo, but now, not only did she have a super powerful mate, but she also had the strong reaction they envied. Even the things they wanted to refuse were thought up by Li Luo. It was a huge slap in everyone's face, so satisfying. As long as you're happy, Li Luo smiled, there will be more things to teach you in the future. Hearing her words, Coral's eyes sparkled. From today on, she was Li Luo's #1 fan. Li Luo was eating when there was more movement at the cave entrance. This prey is for Li Luo! Quickly, give this beast hide to Li Luo! Coral and Li Luo exchanged glances, then walked out together. The cave entrance was filled with beastmen. They were the females who had asked for stone pots, and they had brought their mates. The entrance was piled high with things: prey, beast hides, fruits of unknown names, and a few things that looked like sapphires. Li Luo was stunned. What is all this for? This is our thank you gift. Please don't be polite. We can't let you teach us for free. Yes, we heard you're pregnant with cubs. You're so thin, you must eat more. Look at this lean meat of mine. It's good for the body, they said happily, everyone looking excited. Coral also urged Li Luo from the side. Just accept it. It's everyone's kind intentions. Li Luo nodded. She wouldn't take it for free. She still had many things to teach them in the future. Then thank you, everyone. After saying goodbye to the crowd, Li Luo looked at the pile of supplies on the ground, falling into melancholy. How can I put so much away? Coral, do you see anything you like? Take whatever you fancy. Coral quickly waved her hands. No, I don't need anything. This is everyone's thank you gift to you. Seeing her worried face, Xuanqi, who had been standing by the side, smiled and spoke. Li Luo, are you worrying about where to put these things? Yes, our cave can't fit that much. Xuanqi walked behind her, put one arm around her waist, and with a wave of his other hand, the piled-up supplies on the ground instantly disappeared. Seeing this scene, Li Luo's eyes widened in surprise. Isn't this the spatial ability mentioned in novels, where things are instantly put away? Her eyes sparkled as she looked up at Xuanqi, her voice excited. Is this a spatial ability? Xuanqi found her adorable. Her current appearance was like a little cub who had discovered something fun. I have 3 abilities: fire, water, and space. As soon as he finished speaking, Yingfeng's pupils dilated in shock. He actually has 3 abilities, and 2 are natural element abilities, plus a spatial ability. No wonder he's a 9-tier beastman. Li Luo was truly excited at this moment. She had only seen these things in novels, and she never thought she would witness them firsthand one day. You're too amazing! My space can be controlled by my thoughts and can maintain its current state forever, Xuanqi replied with a smile, then picked her up and walked into the cave. Eat well first, eat more. I can now cook with a stone pot, so I'll cook for you tonight. Xuanqi gently placed her in front of the pot, took the bowl from her hand, and filled another bowl for her. Only after Li Luo finished eating did Coral excitedly stand up. Li Luo, I'll go inform them to gather at the tribe entrance first. Get ready and come over, okay? Okay, I'll be there in a bit. As soon as Coral turned around, Yingfeng immediately transformed into his beast form, a majestic lion. After Coral climbed onto him, he went out of the cave. Li Luo thought to herself, this big lion is truly handsome. She turned to look at Xuanqi beside her and slyly smiled. I want to see your beast form. Xuanqi was amused by her sly look and spoiled her with a soft, okay. Then he transformed into his beast form, deliberately shrinking himself considerably. After all, with his tier, the cave might not be big enough to accommodate him. Li Luo exclaimed, your beast form is so beautiful. Your shiny black scales glitter with colorful iridescent light in the sunlight. This is probably a colorful black. She couldn't help but reach out and touch it. The texture is so good. It would be so cool to have him sleep in his beast form tonight. As if suddenly remembering something, Xuanqi changed back to human form, then materialized a few things that looked like sapphires. Looking at the glowing blue stones, Li Luo was confused. What are these? Xuanqi took her hand, placed these scattered blue spiritual stones in her palm, then took out a whole bag full and handed it to her. Li Luo took the stones and examined them carefully. They were indeed quite beautiful. Xuanqi explained. These are called blue spiritual stones, and they are the currency circulating among beastmen. When we usually go hunting, some prey will have these spiritual stones in their bodies. Spiritual stones can be used by males to upgrade, and for females they can strengthen the body. High-grade spiritual stones can even increase a female's lifespan. However, if spiritual stones are used by females, males need to help because ordinary females don't have abilities. Li Luo caught a key point. Ordinary females don't have abilities? Does that mean some females can also awaken abilities? Xuanqi nodded. Yes, that happens, but it's very rare. Females who awaken abilities usually become shamans. Those with outstanding abilities will even become high-level shamans. And they generally live in super tribes. Super tribes? Li Luo suddenly felt it was necessary for her to understand the culture of the beast world thoroughly. Xuanqi said somewhat dotingly, "Take this bag of blue spiritual stones. If it's not enough, I'll give you more. I also have many purple spiritual stones in my space." He also has purple spiritual stones? She was confused again. Seeing her bewildered expression, Xuanqi felt a little pained for her, a female who doesn't even know what blue and purple spiritual stones are. With a thought, a purple spiritual stone appeared in his hand. Then he placed the spiritual stone in her palm and carefully explained to her, "Blue spiritual stones are the lowest quality spiritual stones. Ordinary wild beasts will have them in their bodies. Purple spiritual stones are found in higher tier beasts than those that have blue spiritual stones. Above that are red spiritual stones and black spiritual stones. The value of black spiritual stones is immeasurable. If converted into beastman tiers, blue spiritual stones are equivalent to a 3rd tier beastman. I heard that black spiritual stones are equivalent to a 12th tier. In the continents I've traveled, let alone 12th tier, there are only 2 9th tier beastmen in total, and I am one of them. So in this continent, you can walk sideways because I am invincible." Li Luo looked at him, a complex emotion surging in her heart. She didn't understand what it was, but at this moment, she wanted to kiss him. "Lower your head." Xuanqi obediently lowered his head. The next second, a warm lip pressed against his. Feeling the warmth on her lips, Xuanqi's tongue tightened. He scooped her up and deepened the kiss. Who understands? When he said, "You can walk sideways because I am invincible," it really made a beast's heart flutter. When they stopped, both their faces were flushed. "We should go, otherwise Coral and the others will wait too long." Li Luo placed the spiritual stones in his hand. Xuanqi, with a thought, put them back into his space, then carried her towards the water's edge. Seeing Li Luo approach, Coral immediately called everyone to the water's edge. Li Luo looked at the dense crowd of beastmen in surprise. "Are there so many beastmen?" Coral smiled. "Yes, this is the result of 1 tells 10, 10 tells 100. The whole tribe knows about it. Almost all the available beastmen came." When everyone arrived at the water's edge, Li Luo stood aside, guiding everyone on what kind of stones to look for to make a stone pot. Then Yingfeng began to cut and teach. After some effort, everyone had a smooth stone pot in their hands. At this point, Li Luo also noticed the large trees by the water's edge. A thought occurred to her. Stone bowls are still a bit heavy. Wooden bowls would be very convenient. "Husband, cut that tree from this position, then cut it in half." "Husband? What's husband?" Although Xuanqi was confused, he knew Li Luo was talking to him. He slightly raised his hand, and an ultra-thin ice blade quickly flew past. The giant tree fell to the ground with a crash. With another ice blade, the giant tree split into 2 halves. Li Luo directed her husband to cut the tree into sections while also instructing Yingfeng to make wooden bowls, just like they made stone bowls. Stone bowls are still a bit heavy, not very convenient. Today, I'll teach everyone to make wooden bowls. Soon, a set of tableware was made. Each piece of tableware was polished very smoothly. All the beastmen were stunned. Xuanqi was also surprised. "I never thought it could be done this way. My partner is truly amazing." Next, everyone followed the steps and made a set. After seeing that everyone had finished making the tools, Li Luo originally planned to return to the tribe directly, but she suddenly remembered that without a beast form with a water ability, using water would be very inconvenient. So she decided to make a water storage tool. Li Luo chose a relatively thick tree and had Xuanqi cut down the tree, then divided it into several sections, hollowed out the center to make a wooden barrel, and then polished it. Soon, a large wooden barrel was made. Li Luo also instructed them to make a lid and a wooden dipper for scooping water. Li Luo explained each of these tools one by one and demonstrated them to everyone. "All right, this is a clean wooden barrel that can store water. Everyone knows how to do it now, right? If you know how, start doing it." Soon, others followed suit. Coral, holding the dipper made by Yingfeng, immediately went to the water's edge and scooped a dipper of water. Then her eyes lit up. Li Luo is truly too smart. After being busy for so long, Li Luo was now hungry. In fact, she had been hungry for a while, but she wanted to wait until everyone finished before going back. But now, she couldn't wait any longer. She glanced at the man beside her. The man immediately put his arm around her waist and softly asked if she was tired or hungry. Li Luo nodded in his arms. "I'm hungry. I want to eat fried meat." Hearing this, Xuanqi immediately picked her up and returned to the cave. Before long, Li Luo was happily eating fried beef at home. She once again marveled. The quality of the meat in this beast world is truly amazing. It's really fat, tender, and fresh. I've eaten a lot of steaks in my past life, but none were as delicious as this. Shuri flipped the meat in the pot while smiling at her. "You seem to really like this lean meat." Li Luo ate with a satisfied expression. "This meat is so delicious. It's both fatty and tender. Then I'll catch more so you can eat your fill." Looking at the handsome man in front of her, who was frying meat for her while saying implicit sweet nothings, she suddenly felt that her previous hardships were not in vain. Indeed, having a husband was good. Now I can eat my fill every meal. Li Luo was still enjoying her food, while outside, many beastmen had already gathered. At this moment, Coral also came to the cave entrance. "Li Luo! Li Luo! Are you full? Everyone is waiting outside. Once you're full, I'll go out and tell them." Li Luo looked at Coral's excited expression, finding it amusing. She was like a little sun, always full of energy. 5 minutes later, Li Luo's cave was filled with beastmen. After directing them to their positions, Li Luo began teaching. First, she taught them how to render oil, then how to fry meat with oil, how to cook food in a pot, and the uses of some seasonings. Xuanqi assisted her from the side. At this moment, Li Luo was like a kindergarten teacher, and the beastmen stood obediently, listening attentively, their faces full of admiration. There was another burst of excited discussion. Li Luo was starting to feel sleepy now. The teaching was almost done. "I need to rest." As soon as Li Luo said rest, Xuanqi immediately scooped her up and walked into the cave, then carefully placed her on the straw nest. "Sleep well. Call me if anything happens." Li Luo wanted to say something, but in the next second, she fell sound asleep. Looking at her sleeping face, Xuanqi felt a warmth in his heart. He transferred some more energy into her belly. Once there was enough energy, the cubs would be quiet and wouldn't absorb her energy. When Xuanqi returned outside, everyone had already helped clean up everything. The pots were washed spotless, and they all excitedly went home to experiment with what they had learned. Li Luo slept very soundly. When she woke up, it was already the next morning. "Why did I wake up so early?" Seeing her awake, Xuanqi quickly picked her up and walked towards the cave entrance. After these few days of living together, he had already become very familiar with some of Li Luo's living habits. For example, after waking up in the morning, she must clean her mouth with fragrant wood branches, then wash her face with water, and only then can she eat. Li Luo rubbed her eyes and replied, "Maybe I went to bed early yesterday, so I woke up early today." Xuanqi lit a fire and asked her, "Are we still eating fried meat today?" Li Luo nodded. "Have you noticed that I'm sleeping longer and longer, and my appetite has also increased a lot?" Xuanqi explained, "You're pregnant with cubs, so sleeping more and having a bigger appetite are normal. Moreover, you're carrying Xuanqing's snake cubs. Your current appetite isn't even that big yet. After 45 days, your appetite will be even greater." Li Luo had thought about what it would be like to be a mother, but she never expected that she would actually become a mother. Her children were 3 snakes. "Then how long until I give birth?" "You'll be pregnant for more than 2 months. After the cubs are born, I'll have to incubate the eggs. It will take about 60 days of incubation," Xuanqi said, but then he suddenly realized that Li Luo currently only had him as a mate. Once the cubs were born, he would have to incubate the eggs, which meant he couldn't take care of her. Xuanqi frowned, a little melancholic. He hadn't thought about finding another mate for Li Luo because no one was stronger than him, and he was fully capable of taking care of and protecting her. But now, once he laid the snake eggs, he would have to incubate them for 2 months. He couldn't leave the snake eggs. Snake eggs had requirements for temperature and humidity. Once he started incubating the snake eggs, he would remember their temperature. If he left the snake eggs, the little snakes inside would stop growing and turn into dead eggs. So he could only incubate for 2 months without eating or drinking, and then wait for the little snakes to be born. There would be no way for him to hunt. Noticing his sudden grim expression, Li Luo's heart skipped a beat. She quickly asked, "What's wrong? Why do you suddenly look so bad?" Xuanqi sat down in front of her and looked at her seriously. "Li Luo, when the snake eggs are born, I will incubate them. During these 2 months of incubation, I cannot leave the snake eggs, otherwise our cubs will not hatch." Li Luo's worried heart settled. She thought it was a big deal. Once the cubs are born, you just focus on incubating the eggs. Xuanqi said seriously, "Li Luo, when I say I cannot leave the snake eggs, it means I will not be able to take care of you, nor will I be able to go hunting. You need to find another mate. Or even more. In the beast world, almost every female had at least 4 or 5 mates, and some even had dozens. Although he didn't want to, it was indeed unreasonable for Li Luo to only have him as a mate. At this moment, Li Luo's mind buzzed. This big husband wants to find her a second husband. Li Luo comforted him. "I can take care of myself. You just focus on incubating the eggs then." "How can you take care of yourself in your condition? Before I came, you were eating porcupine to fill your stomach. If I can't go hunting, are you going to eat porcupine again?" Xuanqi was a little angry. How can she take care of herself? Li Luo touched her nose. "These beastmen in the beast world are so cute. They call fish porcupine." Li Luo thought, it's still spring now. Plants and wild animals are growing fast, so there's no shortage of food. But then will come the harsh rainy season and the cold season. I might not be able to take good care of myself alone, especially during the cold season when I will hibernate. Hunting was most difficult during the cold season. If you only have me as a mate, you might not even survive the cold season. Moreover, we now have cubs, so my suggestion is you need to find more powerful mates. Xuanqi spoke very seriously, and Li Luo also became serious. Indeed, finding food during the cold season was very difficult. Yes, beastmen would start hoarding food in the spring. Li Luo began to recall her memories. In her memories, her parents in this body were already digging holes to store food at this time. Once the cold season arrived, all the plants would wither, and wild animals would hardly come out, let alone during the rainy season and the cold season. During the rainy season, there would be water everywhere, and they would have to worry about their homes being flooded. Once flooded, they would have to move to higher ground, and snakes would uncontrollably hibernate during the cold season. Xuanqi wouldn't be able to take care of her. With her small arms and legs, how would she find food during the cold season? Thinking of this, Li Luo sighed. "I understand." At this moment, a voice came from the cave entrance. "Li Luo, are you awake?" Li Luo was puzzled. "Who's calling me?" Xuanqi said, "I'll go check," and turned to walk out. Soon, the blonde beastman she had seen last time walked in. Li Luo recognized him at a glance. This beastman was the one celebrating that day. You're not that." Seeing her stutter, Han Xuan directly introduced himself. He thought Li Luo at least knew who he was. "My name is Han Xuan. Chief Lingshan is my father." "Han Xuan, do you need something from me?" At this moment, Xuanqi, who was beside her, carefully sized up Han Xuan. He came to find Li Luo. It seemed he led the way last time. A 7th-tier beastman, the chief's son. He also looks decent. Although not as good as me, he's not bad. Han Xuan smiled at Li Luo. "I'm here to understand some things. Can we sit down and talk?" Sit. Li Luo pointed to the stone stool, motioning for him to sit. "It's like this, I want to ask. How much meat did the tribe give you before?" Hearing this, Li Luo was a little confused. What does he mean? Does he want the meat back? Xuanqi, who was beside her, narrowed his eyes. A dangerous aura permeated the air. If this kid was here to take the meat back, he would throw him out directly. It has to be said that Han Xuan was truly a slow-witted person. Even Li Luo could feel Xuanqi's displeasure, but he sat there perfectly upright as if nothing was wrong. Li Luo spoke plainly. "What does this mean? Are you saying that I now have a mate and want to take back the meat you gave me?" Han Xuan quickly and anxiously explained, No, how could that be? I want to ask, my father always gave you a considerable amount of meat. For a female, it was completely enough to eat. So why did you resort to eating porcupine to fill your stomach?" This statement made Li Luo silent. She began to recall her memories. "On the first and second day I came to the tribe, the meat sent by the tribe was indeed a lot, completely enough for me to eat alone. But later, the meat became less and less, especially after the coming-of-age ceremony. The meat sent was only enough for one meal. I was so hungry that I had no choice but to go everywhere to find food." Han Chuan's face darkened after hearing Li Luo's words. Actually, our tribe doesn't have a tradition of sending meat to females. And the meat that was sent to you was actually my father's own food. He gave you a large piece from his own food. Li Luo's mouth twitched. So where did that food go? Now, Han Chuan could be sure that something was definitely wrong in some intermediate link, which was why she received so little meat. At this moment, a long hand handed over a bowl full of meat. Li Luo, it's time to eat. Li Luo looked at Xuanqi beside her. At this moment, he seemed like a beast man abandoned by his mate, his eyes full of resentment. He was probably too engrossed in talking to Han Chuan to even know when Xuanqi had finished frying the meat. Li Luo took the bowl with both hands and gave him a sweet smile. Thank you, my very, very best snake. Xuanqi, who was initially unhappy, had his displeasure swept away after hearing this sentence. His face also flushed, and he stammered as he spoke. You're welcome. This is what I should do as a mate. Is it delicious? There's more after you finish. Li Luo? Li Luo nodded with a smile while eating. Xuanqi couldn't help but curve his lips into a smile, then continued to fry the meat attentively. At this moment, Han Chuan had also understood the situation. I apologize for disturbing you so early. I'll go back and investigate. I'll let you know when I have results. Then, I'll be leaving. After saying that, he quickly left. He left so fast that Li Luo didn't even have time to say anything before he was gone. I haven't even finished asking, Li Luo mumbled softly. From Han Chuan's words, it was not difficult to deduce that her meat must have been embezzled. She carefully thought back, trying to find the image of the beastman who delivered the meat in her memory. It was because of that damn beastman who handled the meat that the original owner starved to death. While she was thinking, the bowl in front of her was taken by a large hand. What's wrong? Are you interested in that Han Chuan? You're acting all dejected as soon as he leaves. If you want him as a mate, I'll go snatch him for you, Xuanqi said, stuffing the bowl full of meat back into her hand. Li Luo took the bowl, looking at him intently while eating the meat. This is a really strong smell of jealousy. Li Luo wanted to tease him, so she said somewhat mischievously, Really? You can actually snatch him? Xuanqi's hand, which was frying the meat, suddenly paused. Then he put down his chopsticks and sat by the side, looking at the cave entrance. Good heavens, she really did take a liking to that lion. He said he'd help her snatch him, and she actually wants him. Seeing his sulking expression, Li Luo only found it amusing. She stood up, walked to his side, then squatted down and looked at him. Why are you still unhappy? Didn't you say you'd snatch him to be my mate? I agreed, so why are you still angry? Li Luo truly wanted to burst out laughing at this moment, but she hadn't had enough fun yet. She had to take it easy. Xuanqi looked at her half-smiling face, unable to say anything for a long time. He simply turned to the other side, not looking at her. He didn't understand what was happening in his heart at this moment. He had just told her he would find her a new mate, but now, seeing her genuinely interested in another beastman, and even agreeing for him to snatch him back as a mate, he felt uncomfortable. Suddenly, a pair of hands wrapped around him from behind. A gentle voice sounded behind him. I'm just teasing you. When did I ever take a liking to Han Chuan? I was just thinking, if Han Chuan finds the beastman who embezzled my meat, how will he punish that beastman? Li Luo leaned against his back and said somewhat sadly, If the punishment is light, I won't be happy, because I almost starved to death back then. If the punishment is severe, I don't think it can be that severe. After all, I'm still perfectly fine here. Suddenly, with a spin, Li Luo straddled his lap, facing him. This position inexplicably made her heart race. Xuanqi stared into her eyes. He said in a firm tone, If you wish, I can kill him for you. Li Luo fell silent. She wanted the beastman who embezzled the meat to pay the price, but she didn't think it was necessary to kill him. Yet, the original owner couldn't have died for nothing. She suddenly felt so tired. What should she do? I'm sleepy. I want to sleep. Li Luo leaned into his arms as if deflated. I don't want to think about it anymore. We'll talk about it later. Xuanqi scooped her up and walked into the cave, then gently placed her on the straw nest. Sleep. I'll be outside. Don't call me. When Li Luo groggily woke up, she saw Xuanqi's anxious face in front of her. Li Luo rubbed her eyes and asked, What's wrong? Seeing her awake, Xuanqi's hanging heart finally settled. He half squatted in front of her. You slept for a whole day and haven't eaten anything. I was very worried about you. He had transferred a lot of energy to her while she was sleeping, fearing that the cubs would consume her own energy. Li Luo, are you hungry? What do you want to eat? I'll make it for you. Anything is fine. I am a little hungry. Okay then, I'll still make you fried meat. Today, everyone caught a feng cow and sent it over. It's enough for you to eat for a while, Xuanqi said with a smile, taking out a large piece of beef from his space. With a flick of his finger, the large piece of meat had already turned into many small pieces. Just then, Coral and Yingfeng walked in from outside. Coral said happily, "Li Luo, you're finally awake. I haven't seen you all day. I missed you so much." Li Luo smiled back. "I slept for a long time today. It even scared my mate." At this moment, Xuanqi was frying meat. Hearing Li Luo's voice, he looked up at her seriously. "You really did scare me. I know you'll sleep more after getting pregnant, but you slept for a whole day without eating or drinking." Li Luo walked over and sat down in front of him, touching his face. "Sorry for making you worry. It's nothing," Xuanqi said, somewhat stammering. If anyone paid attention, they would notice his ears were completely red. "Li Luo, you don't even know. Today, everyone caught a feng cow. The females brought fruits, beast hides, and everything else piled up at the cave entrance." Coral recalled the morning scene with emotion. That scene was even livelier than a celebration in the tribe. As she spoke, Coral suddenly leaned close to Li Luo, looking at her with some heartache. "I remember you were eating porcupine before, but thankfully you don't have to anymore. There's so much meat that you can't even finish it." Li Luo smiled and said, "Actually, porcupine is edible. Although it has many quills, its meat is very delicious, especially when used to make fish soup." She thought, "It seems I need to popularize knowledge about fish with them. The fish in the beast world are simply too delicious." "When I roasted fish to eat, the meat was very fragrant and tasted fresh and sweet. I can't even imagine how good it would taste if it were used to make soup." Coral looked puzzled. "Porcupine is delicious?" "Actually, porcupine is very delicious. It's just that you don't know how to eat it," Li Luo explained. "When I couldn't get enough to eat before, I would go to the back mountain to catch porcupine and roast it. It was really good. All the porcupine in the back mountain were caught by me." "Ha ha ha," Li Luo said with a laugh, but everyone looked at her with pity and heartache. At this moment, a wooden bowl full of meat was handed over. Xuanqi looked at her expectantly. "Quickly, taste my cooking today!" He had no experience taking care of females and always struggled with the heat when frying fresh meat, so he had secretly practiced a lot. Li Luo looked at his expectant little eyes, took the chopsticks, picked up a piece of meat, and ate it. "It's delicious. Xuanqi, your cooking skills have improved." Hearing her praise, Xuanqi blossomed with joy, but he only smiled faintly on the surface. Coral said somewhat shyly, "I'm drooling from watching. Can I have some too?" She knew it was a bit rude, but she was genuinely craving it. Li Luo quickly handed the bowl over. "Eat, eat! My mate's cooking is excellent. Try it!" As Li Luo spoke, she also secretly glanced at Xuanqi out of the corner of her eye. Although she didn't think Xuanqi would be stingy, this was meat he fried for her, and she was sharing it like this. She was afraid he might be a little unhappy. Xuanqi continued to fry the meat while smiling. "If you can't get enough, there's more in the pot." He saw Li Luo stealing glances at him and only found it a little amusing. She was too cute. Of course, he wouldn't mind Coral eating the meat he fried. On the contrary, he was very grateful for the care Coral's family showed Li Luo. Being good to Li Luo was being good to him. Xuanqi turned around and smiled at Yingfeng, who was standing beside him. Yingfeng felt his gaze and looked back at him. "What do you want?" "Nothing much. I just want you to cut all the beef in my space into small pieces, so it's easier for me to cook for Li Luo later." Yingfeng didn't understand. "You're a 9-tier big boss. Cutting meat into small pieces is just a flick of your finger, right? Why do you need my help?" Xuanqi glanced at him and said airily, "My power is too strong. Even the lowest power fire blade would cook the meat directly where it's cut, and an ice blade would freeze the meat, and I'd have to thaw it. It's troublesome." Yingfeng's face darkened upon hearing this. "Damn it, why do I feel like I'm being passive-aggressively mocked?" Next, Yingfeng started cutting meat with a dark face, while Xuanqi put the meat pieces into his space. During this time, he didn't stop frying meat. One hand threw meat, the other hand fried and flipped it. Li Luo and Coral were both stunned watching. Coral ate meat while staring at her mate, who was using his ability to cut meat. "Li Luo, don't you think your mate has become more handsome?" Li Luo also ate and watched. "Right? I suddenly feel my mate has become so charming and handsome too. Our thoughts are exactly alike." Li Luo couldn't help but laugh and cry when she heard his words. She knew why Coral said that, because a man who works seriously is the most charming. Li Luo slowly leaned towards Coral, then slyly whispered to her, "Do you like him so much that you want to have a cub with Yingfang? Preferably one that looks like him, then you'll have a miniature Yingfang." Coral's eyes lit up. "A miniature Yingfang sounds quite good." Coral directly said, "Yingfang, you sleep with me tonight." Yingfang was a bit surprised. It wasn't his turn to sleep with Coral tonight. Why was he suddenly being asked to? Xuanqi, who was beside them, subtly glanced at his mate, a smile playing on his lips. At this moment, Li Luo didn't realize that her one sentence was about to make a certain male lose his chance tonight. Coral had 5 mates, and each mate took turns sleeping with Coral. Tonight, it was Quasar's turn to sleep with Coral. At this moment, in the adjacent cave, Quasar was still meticulously arranging the bed for tonight, eagerly anticipating the night's events. Soon, Li Luo and Coral were full. Yingfang helped Xuanqi put things away and clean up. After that, Coral also bid farewell to Li Luo and went home. A few hours later, Quasar looked at Coral with a wounded expression. It was supposed to be his turn to sleep with Coral today. How did it change to Yingfang sleeping with her while he was out? He had painstakingly prepared for a while. Seeing Quasar's wounded look, Coral felt bad. It was indeed his turn to sleep with her, and suddenly changing people was a bit unfair to him. Coral said, somewhat apologetically, "Both of you can sleep with me." Hearing this, both their eyes lit up. After nightfall, it was pitch black outside the cave. If one listened carefully, they could faintly hear ambiguous sounds. Li Luo nestled in Xuanqi's arms. She gently stroked her belly and asked, "You said that after 60 days, you'll be able to sense if it's a male cub or a female cub, right?" Xuanqi placed his hand on her lower abdomen and gently said, "But I guess they're all male cubs. In my clan, I don't think I've ever heard of female cubs being born." Li Luo immediately felt a little indignant. What if they are female cubs then? Not having seen them doesn't mean they don't exist, right? Xuanqi thought for a moment. If they are female cubs, then I will definitely protect them well and not let them suffer any harm. My Xuanqi's female cubs deserve the best in this world. Li Luo's mouth twitched. So he's a doting father to daughters. Li Luo suddenly wanted to tease him and asked slyly, "Then what about male cubs? Are male cubs like that too?" But Xuanqi said mercilessly, "Male cubs are just thrown out directly to live independently." This statement completely startled Li Luo. She immediately sat up and looked at him. "Xuanqi, if you dare to throw my son out to live outside, I won't want you as a mate." Li Luo was a little angry. She painstakingly carried and gave birth to cubs, and he actually said he would just throw them out directly. If he dared to throw the children out, she would throw him out first. Xuanqi couldn't quite understand her reaction. Beastmen were supposed to be independent. Many male cubs, when they were young, would follow their fathers out to hunt. This was very dangerous, but it was also a test. Weak males were not worthy of living. This was the rule of the beast world. Xuanqi was silent for a while, then sat up and looked at her. "If you don't want me as a mate, then who will take care of you? If you can't bear to part with the children, you can keep them by your side for a while. I can afford it." Li Luo got even angrier when she heard this. "No, what do you mean? What do you mean keep them by your side for a while?" Xuanqi didn't understand why she was so angry. He didn't dare to say anything more. Li Luo's emotions surged at this moment. "What do you mean, keep them by your side for a while?" Xuanqi explained, "In my lineage, the Xuan King Snake clan is like this. From birth, I was directly thrown out by my father to live independently. That's why I've been fighting for survival since I was little. My 9-tier power didn't come easily. Talent is important, but effort is also very important. It's the same for male cubs of other races. Males themselves need to be strong, otherwise, how can they support themselves and their mates?" Xuanqi's words calmed Li Luo down. She had forgotten that she was now living in a beast world fantasy world, not the modern 21st century. "I'm sorry, I was a bit overly emotional. This world is cruel. If you're not strong enough, you'll become food for wild beasts. Just like when I first transmigrated, I could only barely survive by catching some fish." Xuanqi looked at Li Luo's disheartened face in front of him. He felt a little heartache. Never mind. He's a 9-tier beast man anyway. There are only a few mates who can be his match. If you can't bear to part with the cubs, then keep them by your side. We'll figure out how to teach them later." "Li Luo, if you can't bear to part with the cubs, then keep them by your side. I am very strong, and taking care of you is not a problem as long as you are happy." Hearing his words, Li Luo looked up at him, just staring without saying a word. Xuanji felt a little uncomfortable under her gaze. "What's wrong? Why are you looking at me like that?" Li Luo said nothing, just hugged him tightly. She knew he regarded her as very important. So important that he could abandon the rules of the beast world for her. Li Luo just held him like that, and he silently wrapped his arms around her body. After a long time, Li Luo softly asked, "Xuanqi, will you be completely loyal to me and cherish me?" Xuanji's embrace tightened even more, holding the person in his arms closer. He answered seriously and firmly, "Of course, Li Luo, we are already mates. You are the beloved I will protect with my life. You don't need to doubt that." The two embraced each other for a long time, neither speaking, just holding each other tightly. During this time, Li Luo made a decision. She decided to tell Xuanqi about her 21st century soul. She was not acting impulsively. As a soul from the 21st century, it was simply impossible for her to continue living in the primitive beastman way. Time and rejection were just the beginning. Although beastmen were simple-minded and got along well, they didn't make a sound in that regard. But once someone raised a question, everyone would realize that what he had done was simply too advanced, at least for this tribe. In the future, he would definitely create other things and might even recognize more uses for plants. It would definitely be impossible to hide it from Xuanqi. He would suspect it sooner or later. Moreover, he had traveled to many places before and seen so much, making it even easier for him to discover. So he decided to tell him the truth. He trusted Xuanqi. Li Luo moved out of his embrace and looked at him very seriously. "Xuanqi, I want to ask you, no matter what I do, will you always stand by my side?" Seeing her so serious, Xuanqi also answered very seriously, "Of course, no matter what you do, I will stand by your side." After taking a deep breath, Li Luo slowly said, "I need to tell you something. This might be a bit incredible, but it's the truth. If you have any thoughts, you can tell me." It was rare to see Li Luo so serious, so Xuanqi quickly sat up straight and nodded to her. Quote, "Xuanqi, actually, I am not the real Li Luo. I transmigrated from another world." As Li Luo spoke, she carefully watched his expression, but it was clear that Xuanqi didn't quite understand. "Actually, before you found me, the owner of this body had already died. I just transmigrated and possessed this body. You could say that I had just regained my breath when you found me. Can you understand?" Xuanqi thought for a moment and asked, "Meaning, the original beastman of this body is already dead, and you transmigrated, then occupied this body, and then revived? Is that right?" Li Luo felt a little nervous at this. "That's right. The original Li Luo is dead. The current me is another Li Luo." Xuanqi showed no expression. He couldn't guess her thoughts at once. And then, this and then completely stumped Li Luo. She had imagined many scenarios, him treating her like a monster, or even pushing her out to tell everyone. She had never thought of this kind of scenario. "That's it? That's all? I said I'm not the owner of this body, nor am I from this world. Aren't you surprised? Don't you have anything to say?" Li Luo felt that this situation was too bizarre. Xuanqi pulled the person in front of him back into his arms. "Surprised? But does that matter? You are you, and the one I love is you. Does it matter if you're the original Li Luo?" He didn't care about what she said, about transmigration or not, about not being the original owner of the body. He only cared that the person he was embracing was her. Li Luo never expected him to react like this. At this moment, she felt as if her originally empty heart was suddenly filled with something. Suddenly, she heard a soft sniffle from the person in his arms. Xuanqi immediately panicked. "Li Luo, what's wrong? Is something wrong with me? Don't cry, don't cry. Tell me if something's wrong with me and I'll change." He coaxed her with heartache. Unexpectedly, Li Luo cried even louder. She looked up at him. "Why don't you care at all that I transmigrated to this world? Aren't you afraid?" Looking at her swollen, red eyes from crying, Xuanqi felt a pang of heartache. "Care about what? Care that you're not the original owner of the body?" He looked directly into her eyes. "Li Luo, you seem to have always misunderstood something. You said you transmigrated and then I found you, right?" Li Luo nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. "Then that's it, isn't it? From beginning to end, I only knew you. You were the one I met from the very beginning. What would I care about?" Li Luo's heart suddenly stopped. It seemed to be true. The emotions suppressed in her heart suddenly completely let go. Yes, she only had interactions with Xuanqi after she transmigrated. The original beastman, Li Luo, had long since died. Seeing her mood gradually improve, Xuanqi secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Why do you say I'm not afraid? I'm a 9-tier beastman. On this continent, there are probably not even 2 people who can be my match. What can a weak female like you do to me? After Li Luo understood, she felt like she was going to crumble. Is it true that pregnancy makes you stupid for 3 years? She thought she was a very smart person, but why had she become like this now? Xuanqi said seriously, "Actually, Li Luo, when I watched you lead everyone to make stone pots and tools, I felt that you must be different." How different? Li Luo felt that what he had thought of before seemed to be aligning. I've been to many places, and I've seen many super tribes. No tribe is like yours. Some tribes do eat cooked meat, but that's just limited to cooking the meat. Not to mention making stone pots and things like that. Also, you discovered the uses of plants like chili and ginger. This is enough to show that you are different. Xuanqi's words made Li Luo's heart skip a beat. As she had thought, what she had done was still too advanced and would definitely arouse suspicion. She fell into a moment of melancholy. Suddenly remembering something, Li Luo asked somewhat cautiously, "You said, if someone asks in the future, I'll just say I have a natural elemental ability, how about that?" But as soon as she finished speaking, Xuanqi refuted her. "No! Do you know what it means for a female to awaken a natural elemental ability? If the news gets out, it's already not easy for females to awaken abilities, and a natural elemental ability is even rarer. You will be trained by a high-level shaman and eventually succeed them as the next high-level shaman. But you are not truly awakened with an ability, and there will always be a day when your true nature is exposed. At that time, you will become a guilty beast, and guilty beasts will be killed." He had traveled to so many places, and only the high-level shaman of the Tuya tribe had a natural elemental ability. After hearing Xuanqi's words, Li Luo deflated. She was not from this world after all. She had thought things too simply. "It's late. Quickly lie down and rest." Xuanqi finished speaking and lay down with her in his arms. Li Luo felt another surge of emotion in her heart at this moment. No wonder everyone likes side-by-side refrigerators so much. Being hugged like this truly gives a sense of security. "Xuanqi, what names do you want to give the cubs after they're born?" Xuanqi fell silent. He really hadn't considered this question. "You're the cubs' mother. You name them. I'll listen to you." Li Luo began to think. Soon, a name suddenly appeared in her mind. "Xuanqi, I thought of a name. I think it's super good." Hearing the joy in her tone, Xuanqi was also infected. He chuckled and asked, "What name?" "Qiang Xuan. Does it sound good?" Li Luo was very satisfied. "This name has one of your characters." Xuanqi slowly repeated the name. Li Luo Xuanqi. "It sounds good. It's a truly good name. Li Luo, you're really good at naming." Finally, Li Luo decided on the names for the 3 cubs. The eldest is Quan Quan, the second is Xinli, and the third is Luo Bai. Li Luo was very satisfied. She couldn't help but sigh. "I really am a woman who has read countless novels." Just as she was thinking, a magnetic voice sounded in her ear. "Li Luo, I'm very curious. What did you mean by calling me husband before? It's a form of address for a partner in my world." "I see. Then call me that again. You haven't called me that in days." Li Luo's lips curved upwards. Is he being coy? "Husband," Li Luo sweetly called out. This husband made Xuanqi's heart tingle. "Lower your voice and call me again," Li Luo obediently and sweetly called out again. The next second, Li Luo was flipped over, and a passionate and fierce kiss descended. After a while, Xuanqi finally let her go, but the next second, he quickly got up and walked towards the cave entrance. "Li Luo, you sleep first. I'm going out for a bit." Li Luo watched him walk to the cave entrance and then move the water bucket nearby. Is it what she thinks it is? Li Luo's heart sank. After all these days, he had been very proper, with no hint of that kind of intention. She had thought he was quite ascetic, but then again, she was pregnant with cubs now. Even if he had thoughts, he couldn't act on them. Xuanqi took the water bucket and took a cold shower outside, but it was clear that the burning desire had not diminished in the slightest, and the water in the bucket was already used up. So he directly transformed into his beast form, his tail wrapped around the large wooden barrel, and went straight to the water's edge. Xuanqi soaked in the water for a long time, finally suppressing that desire. He let out a long sigh. Snakes were inherently lustful. He'd never been with a female before, let alone mated. Whenever it was mating season, he would find a remote place to stay by himself and suppress it with his power, and there were basically no problems. But now he had mated. If he didn't think about it, it was fine. But once he had even a little thought, it was truly unbearable. He still remembered those few days after he left. It was simply maddening. Li Luo had planned to wait for him to return before sleeping, but she waited for a long time and he didn't come back. Then she got tired and eventually fell asleep. After that sleep, Li Luo felt refreshed. When she woke up, she was surprised to see him still lying beside her, because in the previous days, he was never there when she woke up. Li Luo mumbled softly, "Was he tired last night?" The next second, Xuanqi pulled her into his arms. "What are you mumbling about, Li Luo?" Li Luo was curious. "How did you wake up? I spoke so softly, yet it woke you up." "I woke up when you woke up. When you woke up, you turned over, and I woke up too." "Did I wake you up? Were you tired last night?" Xuanqi asked, confused. "Tired? Why would I be tired?" Li Luo said softly, her face blushing. "Didn't you go out last night?" Xuanqi deliberately played dumb. "Not tired. I just saw there was no water in the wooden bucket, so I went out and got a bucket of water." I understand, haha. I believe you like hell." Xuanqi kissed her forehead, then got up. "Are you hungry? Today I'll let you try some energy-rich meat and see how it works." Li Luo was very curious. "What is energy-rich meat?" Xuanqi explained it to her from beginning to end. Energy-rich meat was prey he caught in the misty forest. He hadn't dared to give it to Li Luo before because he was afraid her body was too weak to handle the energy all at once. Now that she had been nourished by the beast essence for 10 days, and he had also transferred a lot of energy to her, her physical condition should be fine. Li Luo was a little excited. "This meat sounds good. Let's try it quickly." After Li Luo washed up, she sat by the stone pot, waiting for Xuanqi to start frying the meat. Xuanqi took the meat out of his space. The meat itself had already been cleaned, so he just put it directly into the pot to fry. Soon, the aroma of the meat filled the entire cave. The smell of this meat was different. It was more fragrant than ordinary wild beast meat. Li Luo swallowed. "What kind of meat is this? It smells much more fragrant than ordinary wild beast meat." "This is ram meat. It's very nourishing and energizing for the body. This is the wild beast I usually hunt the most. It's only equivalent to the strength of a 7th tier beastman," Xuanqi said as he flipped the meat in the pot. Li Luo looked a little conflicted. "So it's ram meat. In her previous life, she couldn't eat lamb. Every time she ate it, she would throw up, not for any other reason, but purely because lamb was too gamey. In the end, she completely gave up trying. She never ate lamb again." Xuanqi was very focused on frying the meat and didn't notice Li Luo's expression. Soon the meat was fried. Xuanqi picked up a small piece of meat with chopsticks, blew on it, and after it cooled a bit, fed it to Li Luo. Li Luo ate it with a slight frown. The next second, she was very surprised. "It's delicious, so fragrant, so tender. I didn't expect this lamb to have no gamey smell at all. Instead, it's very tender and fragrant and sweet. Is the meat quality of beastmen that good?" After the meat was completely eaten, Li Luo felt her body a little warm, but soon this feeling disappeared. It was probably absorbed by the cubs. As Li Luo was happily eating, another voice came from the cave entrance. "Li Luo, are you awake?" The voice sounded a little familiar. Li Luo looked at Xuanqi, who understood and got up, walking towards the cave entrance. Not long after, Xuanqi came in, leading Han Chuan. Li Luo asked while eating meat, "Is there something you need?" Han Chuan's expression was heavy at this moment. He looked at Li Luo apologetically. "I've investigated everything. The meat that was supposed to be given to you was taken by a beastman named Huyue. Huyue is a 4-tier beastman. Because of his weak personality, he had never found a mate. When he was delivering the meat, he happened to be seen by a female named Qina. At first, Qina thought this was Huyue's own hunt and that he was delivering meat to Li Luo because he wanted to pursue her as a mate. Qina thought, why should such a capable male be taken by a weak female who is inferior to him? So she began to approach Huyue and told him, "As long as you give me the meat, I will become your mate." Huyue quickly explained, "This meat isn't mine. The chief asked me to deliver it to Li Luo." But after Qina learned the truth, she changed her tune and said, "Huyue, you just need to give me half the meat." Huyue was tempted, but hadn't agreed yet. Qina felt the temptation wasn't enough, so she voluntarily initiated intimacy with him. Huyue rarely interacted with females, and was completely unable to resist such temptation. Later, Hue listened to China and gave her half the meat. After that, Kina became even more insatiable, demanding more and more meat. In the end, only a small piece of meat was left for Li Luo. This is the complete story. Han Chuan paused. I came to ask you, how do you want to deal with Kina? It's that evil Tina again. Li Luo was silent for a while. How does the tribe want to handle it? She wanted to see what kind of outcome the tribe would give. If she was satisfied, she wouldn't say anything more. If she wasn't satisfied, then she would express her own thoughts. Of course, if they disagreed, she wouldn't mind letting Xuanqi reason with them. Han Chuan fell silent. Kina, that female, has a bad character, but she has 2 male mates, both golden lion beastmen. Li Luo, how about this? Let China and Hu Yili apologize to you, and then their family will be responsible for all your food until the day you give birth. Han Chuan said, while observing Li Luo's expression. Li Luo frowned and didn't speak. To be honest, her home didn't lack food now. What kind of punishment was 30 days of food? She was not satisfied with this result. Li Luo suddenly spoke in a cold tone. What if I say I'm not satisfied? Her indifferent attitude made Han Chuan's heart tremble. His worst fear had come true. Then Li Luo, what do you want to do? Li Luo's tone was flat. I want China and Hu Yue to get out of the tribe. Han Chuan's face was conflicted. This was very difficult to do. Quina was originally a female of the tribe. Her father and mother were both golden lion beastmen. Moreover, her 2 current mates were also golden lion beastmen. In comparison, Li Luo wasn't even considered a female of the tribe. Even if they knew China was in the wrong, the beastmen in the tribe would still side with her. And if China were driven out, her father and mother would definitely cause a fuss. Even if she was driven away, her mates would follow. There were several tribes in this forest. Besides the Lion King tribe, the strongest were the giant elephant tribe, then the black wolf tribe, and finally the fox tribe. After they left, they would definitely join another tribe. If they had a mind to retaliate against the Lion King tribe, with their understanding of the tribe, they might very well unite with their new tribe to besiege them. At that time, the tribe would be in deep trouble. Han Chuan finished speaking heavily, hoping Li Luo could understand. Unexpectedly, Li Luo's reaction was very calm. Because she had guessed this outcome, her tone suddenly turned cold. I want China and Hu Yu to kneel all the way from the tribe entrance to my house and sincerely kneel and apologize to me. There will be no discussion besides this. Han Chuan had intended to argue, but swallowed his words back. He knew Li Luo was serious. Seeing him hesitate, Li Luo added coldly, This is my bottom line. If he is unwilling, I don't mind letting my mate kill him. As soon as her words fell, Xuanqi, who was beside them, inadvertently raised a faint blue ice flame in his palm. The temperature in the cave instantly dropped by several degrees. Han Chuan knew this was his warning. I understand. I will make China and Hu Yue come and apologize to you. I'll go now. With that, he got up and quickly left. After Han Chuan left, Li Luo didn't even feel like eating anymore. She really couldn't understand why Quina, who clearly had several mates, and their strength was not bad, couldn't even support one female? Why did she do this? Why did she snatch the meat? She clearly knew the original owner couldn't get food, and that no male liked her or took care of her. She knew, yet she still snatched her meat. Some people are just naturally bad seeds. This beastman named Yu was the same. The more Li Luo thought about it, the angrier she got. At this moment, she really wanted to go and beat China up. As she thought, tears suddenly streamed down her face. Seeing Li Luo cry, Xuanqi immediately stepped forward and hugged her, asking with heartache, What's wrong? Why are you crying? If you're not satisfied, I'll go kill them. Yes, I'm not satisfied. How can anyone be so bad? She clearly knew I had no food source, yet she still snatched it. Her mind was filled with images of the original owner not having enough to eat, dragging her skin and bones body, picking wild fruits alone, just to fill her stomach with a little food. Xuanqi was heartbroken. It was the first time he had seen Li Luo cry so heartbreakingly. Li Luo was sobbing uncontrollably, completely consumed by sadness. She felt sad for the deceased Li Luo. You've done well enough. Li Luo, if he saw it, he would understand you. Be good and don't cry. Crying too much is not good for the cubs. Xuanqi had no choice but to bring up the cubs. Sure enough, Li Luo stopped sobbing when she heard that it wasn't good for the cubs, but her whole body was still trembling. Xuanqi gently patted her back to help her catch her breath and softly comforted her. Luo Luo, you've done very well. Listen to me. Although he wasn't driven out of the tribe, we can make his life difficult in the tribe, can't we? Xuanqi said softly, comforting her. Just as Li Luo was about to ask what he meant, Coral suddenly came in. Li Luo, are you awake? Hey Li Luo, what's wrong? Who made you cry? Coral woke up late today. Under the service of her mates, she anxiously finished her food and came to find Li Luo. She didn't expect to see Li Luo in her mate's arms, with red, swollen eyes, and her whole body trembling, clearly having just cried and cried hard. Of course, she didn't believe Li Luo's mate would bully her, so it could only be someone else who made Li Luo upset. Coral's temper flared up instantly. Hey, Li Luo's mate, what's going on? Who made Li Luo cry? It turns out that after spending so many days together, Coral realized she had no idea what Li Luo's mate's name was. My name is Xuanqi. Xuanqi. Who made Li Luo upset? Xuanqi briefly explained what happened. He thought about it and specifically mentioned that Li Luo almost starved to death because of this. After Coral heard this, her anger immediately surged. Good! No wonder he was talking about him and Li Luo at the tribe entrance earlier. So he already had bad intentions. Coral turned and walked away, shouting loudly as she went. Yingfeng, Quasar, Linchuan, Yuefeng, Chuyi, all of you come with me. I'm gonna fight today. Coral directly called all her mates. She was determined to teach China a good lesson today. Hearing Coral say she was going to fight, Li Luo quickly got up from Xuanqi's embrace, but as soon as she stood up, Xuanqi pulled her back. Quote, Coral is gonna fight for me. No, I have to go watch. Of course, he had to watch. When Coral's temper flared, she would be impulsive, and her mates would all listen to her. What if they accidentally went too far? Luo, you don't need to stop her. Coral isn't stupid. She won't beat that female to death. Besides, isn't Yingfeng busy? Yingfeng will watch over them. Moreover, I deliberately told Coral about this matter, Xuanqi said calmly. What do you mean? Li Luo was puzzled. Luo, you don't have a golden lion beastman mate, but that female is a native of the Lion King tribe. A female of the tribe. Didn't Hanchuan say that her father and mother are both golden lion beastmen, and even 2 of her current mates are golden lion beastmen? There is cohesion among beastmen. If you have a dispute with that female, ultimately, the beastmen in the tribe will still side with that female. But Coral is different. Coral is also a native female of the Lion King tribe, and her 2 mates are also golden lion beastmen. Yingfeng is tier 6, Quasar is tier 5. She has equal say with that female, and even more so. With her acting like this, the beastmen in the tribe won't take sides, and then everyone will speak based on the facts. Once Coral tells what happened, everyone will know that this female and her mates will be looked down upon by other beastmen in this tribe from now on. Plus, your contributions to the tribe's beastmen recently, everyone will only stand by your side. Luo, imagine being disliked by all the beastmen. Does that feel good? Li Luo almost wanted to give him a thumbs up. Such strategizing, if placed in ancient times, would surely make him a great emperor. I feel a little sorry for Coral. Li Luo felt a bit guilty. It's nothing. I'll talk to Yingfeng. I'll just give them another giant ox beast, Xuanqi said calmly. In reality, Li Luo was overthinking it, feeling like she was taking advantage of Coral. In Xuanqi's eyes, this was just mutual help among beastmen. He just needed to say something later, and besides, he was telling the truth. On Coral's side, she was full of fiery determination, bringing her 5 mates directly to China's door. At this moment, China was still being intimate with her mate. China, get out here, you rotten-hearted evil female, get out here immediately! Coral was truly furious. She would never forget the day she met Li Luo. When Li Luo greeted her then, her first reaction was to be scared by how thin she was, terrifyingly thin. Li Luo originally didn't have to live such a hard life. She could have relied on the food given by the chief to properly nourish her body. Once her body was well, males would naturally come to court her. At that time, life would naturally not be so difficult. Coral didn't believe that with so many single and excellent males in the tribe, Li Luo, after her body recovered, wouldn't be liked by any male. Li Luo should have had a good life, but it was all because of these 2 black-hearted beasts that Li Luo was almost driven to death by them. A short while later, Quina and her mates all came out. Coral, what are you crazy about? Why are you shouting at my cave entrance so early in the morning? China was a little afraid of Coral, but she wouldn't show it at all. What am I crazy about? Heh, don't you have any idea what you've done? Coral sneered. What have I done? How would I know? I haven't seen you these past few days, have I? What are you unhappy about that you're taking your anger out on me? Quina continued to be stubborn. At this moment, she felt a little uneasy, but she didn't know why. Yingfeng, what do you all mean? Disturbing our sleep so early in the morning. We know you're strong, but isn't this going too far? Qina's mate, Lingqi, said. What concern is it of yours when we females are talking? Get lost? Coral cursed unceremoniously. Lingqi's face flushed with embarrassment from being rebuked. He couldn't say anything more, as males were not allowed to interject freely when females were speaking among beastmen. That's why he had just directly called Yingfeng's name. But what he didn't notice was that Yingfeng hadn't said a single word from beginning to end. At this moment, Yingfeng's gaze towards Lingqi was filled with coldness. Yingfeng spoke indifferently and coldly. I heard Quasar say you tried to lay hands on Coral last time. Lingqi's pupils widened, his expression panicked. Last time, when Coral was fighting with her mate, he anxiously wanted to go forward and stop Coral, but was finally reprimanded by Quasar. This matter had passed days ago. He himself had forgotten about it. How was it being brought up again? I think you've completely forgotten the rules. I think it's necessary for me to teach you what rules are. Yingfeng's extremely cold tone made Quina's mates shiver, especially Lingqi, whose eyes were filled with fear. However, just then, an accident occurred.